Hello and welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, April 1st, 2014, some stuff was going down in the world. The number one movie in the USA that day was Darren Aronofsky's Noah. The number one song in the world, I knew you'd like that. The number one song was
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, Happy by Pharrell. Max Azinski, our own Agent Davis, turned 30. So happy 40th to Agent Davis. And then it was the day before our fearless leader, Gregg, 62. So happy early birthday, or 52. He'll be 62 this week. Happy early birthday, Clark. Not a lot was going down. So I looked into, because it was April Fool's Day, I was like, what were some big pranks that were pulled in 2014? And what's crazy is that none of them sound crazy in 2024. Like, they sound like just real. Hulu announced a cooking show called, a cooking show with Hannibal Lecter. VH1 announced a show called Mobcats, New Blood, that was supposed to be about cat mobsters. It was announced that Fred Armisen was joining the Flaming Lips. Ryan Seacrest announced an NSYNC reunion, and Twitter announced the Twitter Helmet, a sophisticated, fully immersive, staggeringly high-resolution wearable device that allows users to interact with each other around the world. And all of this just seems super tame for April Fool's Day, but that's what was going down 10 years ago. The most important thing, though, obviously, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 16th episode, End of the Beginning, aired on ABC 8/7 Central. Hi, I'm Jamie Gregg, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 1 Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Poletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for everyone for listening, and those who are joining in the chat, welcome to the show.
I'm really excited. We got a great guest today. It's our producer, Maria. Maria Spartigliosi is in the house. Hi, Maria.
Hello. There we go. Now I can switch us and we're proper.
Oh, yeah. She brought herself in.
I did. I'm here. This is what I look like.
Yeah, the no longer disembodied producer Maria Spartigliosi.
It's funny. I'm going to be honest, everybody. We had trouble finding a guest this week because everyone's at WonderCon. WonderCon shut us down. We tried to get a panel going at WonderCon, and they're going to be really embarrassed when they hear the news I'm going to announce later in the show. But and then I asked my friend Becca, and she goes, "Oh, I can't. I'm celebrating Pedro Pascal's birthday." So a lot of stuff going on.
It's an important day.
I mean, I'll be second to Pedro. That makes total sense.
I get it. So let's kick off talking about 10 years ago. I will tell you, on 10 years ago today, I was probably hiding because I hate April Fool's Day. I hate pranks. I hate jokes. They're just mean lies, and I'm not a fan. Maria, do you know what you were doing 10 years ago?
I'm trying to remember. I was living in Los Angeles. I did not yet have a job, so I was probably doing nothing, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I want to say my boyfriend at the time might have tried to prank me.
Sure. Tony?
10 years ago. Oh, I was working in development on a TV show that never came to fruition. It was called Mobcats, and it was about a bunch of cats that were mobsters, and we really loved it. We worked tirelessly on it, but they ended up shooting it down. But it was really something. Maybe one day.
So that actually does sound like your dream show, Mobcats.
It does.
Also,
It does.
I thought for sure Tony would say something real as a April Fool's prank.
As a prank.
Yeah, but I was wrong. I want to shout out everyone in our audience, in our chat. If you're in the live chat, it is actually March 31st. So I want to say happy Easter, happy Trans Visibility Day, happy 25th anniversary of The Matrix. We appreciate you joining us a day early. It's important to me that we did this on the 31st because I don't want anyone to think our news is a prank. Our news is not a prank. I would never do that. I'm gonna ask that people that are listening live don't post about it until we finish the show, so I can post about it, so there's no confusion. But as soon as we finish, I'm sharing the news. But you guys get the early the early fun bits, but I'm going to work my way up to it because there's a lot of stuff going on. First, I want to let you know that on Thursday, we are doing a very special Patreon episode at 7 Pacific time with a very special guest, Tessa Smith, aka Mama's Geeky. She's great on YouTube. You should check out her stuff. And we are talking Captain America, the Winter Soldier, for the movie's 10th anniversary. And you guys, we all know this is a big one. I think if anything was worth spending $1 a month on, it's this one to hear us talk about the Winter Soldier.
Killer guest too.
Oh yeah, Tessa's amazing, and she's so excited to talk about this. Before I'm about to break it. The big news. Before I break the big news, Maria, will you remind the chat of our rules?
Absolutely. If you are going to talk about spoilers before Tony leaves the room, then please tag them with #spoiler. And I will not only be here in the podcast, but I will be monitoring the chat the whole time to make sure you're following along.
Yeah, she's still reading. Don't worry, you're not off the hook today. So
yeah, no, I'm multitasking.
All right, we're back next week. Same time, same place, live show at 5 p.m. Pacific on Sunday, April 7th. The show will be releasing on Monday, April 8th. We are talking turn with special guest, Clark Gregg. That's right, everybody. Clark is going to be on the show next week talking about episode 17. We're so excited. I have, waited to reach out to him to be on the podcast because when we started, it was the strike. And then, I just, the flow, we kept having hiatuses. But this week I finally reached out to him and he was quick to say yes. And I said, episode 17 through 22, which one you want to do? And he picked episode 17.
Pretty awesome. I'm so excited to talk, because I don't know what this episode is. So I'm assuming it's a good Clark episode, so I want to hear him. I'm excited to find out why he picked this one.
Yeah, I'm like, Tony, I'm so nervous that he's gonna spoil stuff, but honestly, if that keeps happening from the cast, it's gonna be hilarious that only the cast spoils things for you.
I would say I feel like we might need to make a caveat of it's a spoiler, but
I think the fact that we have Clark now, I'm really excited about it. We have a really good chance of getting other cast members, and I honestly think we should just make it a bit of. And now Tony doesn't leave the room, and a cast member of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spoils something for him, and just have them pick something to tell me that comes later.
I actually kind of love that. They get to decide, what do you want to spoil Tony? Oh, I will have to consider that. But then, what if they pick something really good though?
Yeah.
It'd be if it was a really funny bit. Clark, I think, would do a funny bit though. We'll have to mull that one over. Also, I want to let everybody know that as far as I know, this is going to be a normal live show with you guys in the chat. But because I'm going to be hyper focused on talking to Clark Gregg, I might not be seeing what you're saying as much as I normally do. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to DM us on Instagram at LidoPod if you have any questions for Clark. I can't guarantee that I'm going to use them, but I want to give you the opportunity to throw some questions our way. And you can ask spoiler questions because we will kick Tony out at one point so that we can talk full-blown spoilers with Clark. Anything about our exciting news that I missed, Maria and Tony?
I think you nailed it.
No? Yeah, that's it. That's the big news.
The show now.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know. Let's get on with this show. But thankfully, we do have a wonderful guest, and that is Maria. Maria, it was funny when I announced you. Somebody commented on Instagram, Maria has a body, and in my head, I read it. Maria has a body, and I went, Jesus.
Damn.
I realized
no.
Body voice. I thought they were being really creepy, and then I realized, oh no, it's a bit for our podcast.
No, it's because
yeah.
Oh man,
wondering why you chose a photo of you with the lion. Can you tell us who this lion is?
I can't explain this, and it is because I looked through my phone and realized that all of the most recent photos of me are at tourist attractions, because that's what I have been doing. Is I went to New Orleans with my family, and that's where this photo was taken at the zoo, and then we went camping, and so it was this or me in a Jelly Belly hat. So
I would have loved that. And I keep thinking, literally, Clearly, Jeremy in the comments says no one on this podcast has legs, clearly making a joke.
That's
First
true.
I read it, it's like no legs. Like these guys don't have any guts when they're talking. I'm in my Amelia Bedelia face.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, let's get into this. Maria, on our first episode, I do think you talked a little bit about some of your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. history, but I want to check in. How has your watch been going? Who are your faves right now? Who do you hate?
It's been going well. I am on episode 19, so I'm only a few ahead of Tony. So far, I am really loving the dynamic between Fitzsimmons. I think they have just grown so much since episode 1 into their own people, but very much this like amazing duo who I think care about each other more than like anyone else on the team, or at least outwardly do.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely my favorites. So far I don't hate Ward. I don't really hate anybody. I think
Okay.
it's kind of the same feeling I have with a lot of Marvel where I'm like, you're here and you're doing your job and you're kind of an asshole, but I feel like to get this job you kind of want to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's true.
So I
love
can
it.
appreciate everyone for what they're doing. Yeah.
Okay, and I can't remember. Remind me, have you seen the whole show or no?
I have not seen the whole show, but I was on Tumblr for a good chunk of its run, so I've seen like bits and pieces.
Yeah. Like Jenna in my other unnamed podcast, she's always dropping those Tumblr day tidbits. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. I made my notes too big. All right, so let's talk about this episode. End of the beginning. I feel like a big one. It was written by Paul Spacheski, the producer who also wrote Fizzed and The Magical Place, who I believe, Tony, are those still your top 2 favorite episodes?
Those are my top 2 favorite episodes. And End of the Beginning, I did not like as much as those 2. This one kind of falls in the middle for me. So out of 16, I have this currently at number 8 in terms of my favorites so far. It's beneath the hub and above the asset as in terms of its ranking.
Okay, that's fair. The episode was directed by Bobby Roth, who previously did The Hub and Tahiti. He directed a movie from 1984 called Heartbreakers that I just added to my Letterboxd watch list because I'm very interested. So we're gonna have to watch that soon. Not to be confused with the 2000s Heartbreaker with Jennifer Love Hewitt. Different film. Let's see. That's in that movie. So all right, the cast, we've got our core 6 and a big lineup of guest stars. Bill Paxton is back as John Garrett. Saffron Burrows is back as Victoria Hand. J. August Richards as Deathlock. Titus Welliver as Felix Blake. Maximiliano Hernandez as Jasper Sitwell. And then we got Brad Dourif in there as Thomas Nash. Tony, I have to ask you about this because Brad's in your favorite movie of all time. And I honestly forgot that he was in the show because it's like so brief and he's all, and he doesn't talk really. So what were your thoughts when you saw his name in the credits?
Oh, I was jazzed. My favorite movie of all time is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it has been for many, many years. I've read the book and I've seen the play, and I love it. And his performance in that movie is exquisite. So I'm always a fan of him. Always happy to see him. Was a little disappointed by just how limited his use was, but I'll have more comments on that character when we get to that part of the story.
Fair. And in this episode, some of the biggest players in S.H.I.E.L.D. team up with Coulson's team to try to find the identity of the Clairvoyant, but Deathlock gets in the way. Maria, what are your kind of initial basic thoughts on this episode?
This episode, I feel, moved way faster than the previous few episodes. I feel like this one didn't have as much of the team, especially because they had to split up. There wasn't the scenes of people sitting and talking. It was just kind of like, here's the plan, okay, and now everyone's gonna go here, and they're gonna talk here, and they're gonna move over here, and it just moved so quickly.
Yeah. Tony?
What? Oh, I liked it. It's ranked 8th.
Yeah. Great. I didn't know if you had any more juice to spill. I guess
Oh,
not.
okay. Well, I will say because you mentioned the guest stars, it is really like a pretty amazing assembly of all of the characters we've been stacking up over the course of these first few episodes, like Ty Oliver and Agent Han, and like she walks onto the bus, and I was just like, oh look, a crew of dicks, because it was all just like a row of people that have like at one point or another been an annoying asshole. So I was just like, oh, what a shitty posse. Yeah, but I do like it. It feels good. It feels like things are coming together, like falling together in a really graceful way. I like seeing everybody that we've been collecting in one place.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah.
Hand was probably my least favorite the entire episode.
Yeah, but she's up. What is she up to? We'll talk about it. God damn it.
As Alice says in the comments, though, she has great hair. We love her hair. I love this episode because it's like, whoa, what's going on? Like, it's a cliffhanger. It leaves a cliffhanger of like so many questions, and I love seeing all the Shield people form. It's like their own Shield asshole Avengers, basically, of this group. And when they walk on the bus, I love it. Yeah, it's just solid. We're in it. We're in the meat. We're in the juice. I mean, I don't think we'd be in an interesting place. Like, obviously, it's an interesting place where Gregg wouldn't want to come on next week. You know?
Yeah. That's our barometer.
Yeah, that's the new test. So let's just like dive into the episode. It kicks off in Sydney with Garrett and Trip. They're back, yay! But Deathlock storms in, kind of ruins their plans a little bit. Tony, I assume that you assumed Paxton was coming back.
I figured that, you're going to get Bill Paxton for more than one. Yeah, I didn't know I'd get to see him so soon. He seems like a kind of character who could just, pop in and out whenever. So I'm glad we got him back so quickly. I'm glad that we kind of got to process. He got to have that stuff with Sky where she thanked him. And it was good to see him back. And then, of course, we got Simmons getting her flirt on again. So that's always good.
Yeah. Oof. And then there's also Garrett is talking about the Index, and he talks about the amazing Kreskin, and I assumed that was a Marvel character, but it's actually a real person.
Yeah.
I know. Did you look this up too? He was a mentalist who was on TV in the 70s, and so I like the joke that they're saying like real people would be on the Index.
Cool.
Yeah, I did not look that up, but it did remind me that my parents had like a Muppet or Sesame Street 25th anniversary VHS when I was a kid, and there was a Sesame Street character that was a takeoff on the Amazing Kreskin.
Oh,
wow, that's awesome.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Crazy. Snowbat in the comments says, take a shot every time I brag about Book and Clark, which is half of a brag and half of I'm hoping new people are
Just
joining the live chat and then I'm dropping it. I also want to shout out Snowbat for the past couple weeks rocking an amazing season 6 cosplay that we'll show Tony pictures of in 5 years. If you guys have good cosplays, I want to see them. Please tag Lido in your cosplays because they make me really happy to see. All right, so the Shield, the big group is together. It just feels important seeing them. But they're all talking about they want to find the Clairvoyant. They want to take down Deathlock, all this stuff. And I'm just going to bring this up and get it out of the way. Sitwell gets a call and gets sent to the Lemurian Star. Now, I don't know how to approach this because on April 1st, 2014, we don't know what that means. But we know what that means. And we're going to talk about it on Thursday when we watch The Winter Soldier. But so, Tony, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling with this movie being only a few days away?
My thoughts are it's a beautifully graceful version of the show and the movie. Sitwell's a crooked fuck, we know. It's been fun to watch him be crooked and not other people not know. Real graceful move. He just bounced, and we're gonna see him in less than a week. I feel like I'm in 2014. It's really fun.
Maria, do you remember this time?
Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember going to see the movie in theaters and then immediately I remember the TV ads for like this episode in particular, and I know you posted them on the socials of like just how much hype they were making because it was going to tie in with Winter Soldier.
Yeah, this episode, after it aired, it came with a sneak peek for Winter Soldier, and I should have thought to look up what that was, and I will before our Patreon. We'll talk about it on the Patreon to see what I'm curious what they showed on ABC this day 10 years ago. I think that's really cool. I also love. It's so fun watching Bill Paxton like shit on Sitwell when he's like, "Oh, you took 2 in the guts. That's more than Sitwell ever did." Because we know that Sitwell sucks. We can't help but know it, and it's really fun to watch Bill Paxton make fun of him.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful. I also, oh my god, that scene between Garrett and Skye that you brought up, Tony, those burns. He's been
yes.
Yeah, really intense. He's getting like more and more interesting of a character because the last time we saw him, he was, this kind of this wild man. He's got this real dark edge to him. Guy he kind of likes the dark and likes the violence, and you're like, oh, this guy. I don't know. But then at the same time, both things are true. He's incredibly sweet to Skye. And very mentor-like and generous and decent. I was like, man, you're just pretty dynamic character. Like he's like a cowboy, but he's got a softness to him. So I don't know. I'm really digging Paxton in this.
He's hard not to love.
Mm-hmm.
Maria, any extra Paxton thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to go from him last week and then him with this very fatherly Skye, but it's still Bill Paxton, and his voice still has that like gravitas, like gravelly edge to it. So it's always like it's sweet, but it's still kind of gruff, which I love.
Yeah.
There's a sexy quality to the man. I mean, come on. We all know it. Let's just be honest with ourselves. He's a hot man. Rest in peace to that beautiful, sexy guy.
Rest in peace.
Okay, so yes, Alice brought it up in the comments, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Skye becomes an agent. I love this whole scene. It's so sweet. I tear up when she gets the badge, and then I really tear up when Maeve is like, I wanted everyone to be here. Like, May thought of her and brought her up, but May's doing something sweet, but also suspicious, and I'm confused, but we'll talk about that later. I want to focus on this really cute Skye stuff. Tony, where are we on Skye watch?
Oh, I love her. I really like her a lot, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm proud of everybody, taking care of everybody, and it's great. Good for her. I love them. They're great.
Yeah, it's so sweet. It's sweet to see her like blossom into this full agent. It feels deserved at this point. Like if they had given it to her earlier, it would have been like, come on.
Yeah.
But you can also just see how much it means to her to like be there with everybody, and it's so nice. It's another like great team moment.
Yeah, especially after.
And I can say this. I was gonna say I could say this as someone who's been a level 1 agent for a few weeks now. It really is moving when the younger people come up. So I'm as a senior agent to her, I'm incredibly proud of her. She's a good agent.
All right.
You said something about a badge.
Oh yeah, Tony got upset because Skye got a badge, but Tony didn't get a badge. So we got to get Tony a badge.
Then you got to buy me a badge every year. After that, it's how it's got to go.
Or just like get a new number.
I would say you just update. There's a slot for a new number somewhere.
Cheap bastards.
All right, so moving on, we got Fitzsimmons. They're still pushing back on Coulson. They just cannot accept that Coulson doesn't want them looking into the blood. And then when Skye is like, no, we should listen to Coulson, they're like really confused. Like, you want to listen? It's just everyone. But then May comes in and she's like, oh, you're working on this? Why don't you tell me about it? It's really sus. And all of this, I love when when Fitz says strange is subjective, but also monkey watch. We got a monkey reference. I can't remember. Is this third or fourth monkey reference?
Scott, do you have the monkey watch log, Maria?
I do. I'm checking. I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
According to this is the fourth reference.
Fourth monkey.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we love it. We love a good monkey reference. We'll post about it. But Tony, I guess we might as well just dive in. Like, what we're gonna talk a little bit more at the end about whatever the hell is going on with May. But like, who do you think she's talking to?
I don't fucking know, man. She's smiling like when she was like congratulating Sky, and she's like, I told them to come up, and brought like Fitzsimmons up there. She is so not May, and I'm so mad. Secrets don't make friends, and it's really bumming me out that this whole thing she's doing. I know she's not talking to I know she's not a bad guy. She's just has an alternate mission. She's reporting something else to something else that Coulson is not privy to, and I'm upset about it because it's creating a rift, and they're good friends. I don't know, but I wanted to say something else. I think I really like their plan. I was like, oh, neat plan in the way that they're operating, as you only know this much of the mission, and you only know this much of the mission. That way the clairvoyant can't know the whole mission. And Sky is like, make it a double blind, and do it this way. I was like, that's cool. That's a cool concept for like a thrillery episode. I like that.
Yeah, that's what I had next on the notes is everybody in teams, and they're good pairings. We've got let's just talk about the pairings. First, we got Tripp and Ward. These two, and the only two times we've seen them together, they're always having a dick measuring contest. Tripp is clearly jealous that Ward was Garrett's protege first. He makes that jab that his family was the cable version of the Kennedys. He calls him the golden boy. But like, it is also like, I do like this dynamic because it's kind of brotherly. And we know that Ward doesn't have a good brother. So
yeah, you could say that again. Oh
man.
Yeah, it's true. I do like that. I like their interplay. It's exactly what it is. There's kind of a jockey punching quality to these two, and I like seeing them together. They have a good dynamic, and they're both time. Like when what's his name, the black actor, what characters does he play? Tripp.
BJ Bright.
When Tripp, Tripp, when he was on the plane, had that great sort of duel, but not a duel with Agent Ward, and I just where they both are on the same team, but they want different things at different times, and it's cool. It's cool to watch them.
We got Garrett and Coulson, which I mean, obviously it had to be these two, right? Like we need scenes with Clark and Bill. If you don't know Clark, Gregg is going to be our guest next week. Garrett's telling stories, and then Clark or Coulson's like, "Yeah, I was there." And I love this dynamic too.
I love that so much. All of it.
Yeah,
the whole
that was
thing.
so good. Yeah,
I like that you didn't fall through a skylight. Yeah, but it makes a better story. I enjoyed that the embellish because it gives you a little insight into him, and I like that.
Exactly, and it's also like an insight into their relationship, just the way that he tells the story and doesn't listen to Coulson.
Yes.
And then finally we've got Blake and May. Love this because he's like trying to flirt with her, and he asks if she's a Scorpio, and May, of course, is not having that nonsense.
What a chode.
I don't know much about astrology, but I bet you someone in these comments knows May's birthday and what her sign is.
Right.
So if you had anything to shed any light on that. But I do like her, like, you don't believe in the clairvoyant, but you believe in astrology. Like, oh, bird.
He's like, well, I'm kind of open-minded, Fucking idiot. You got no game, especially not with that hard ass. Go home, sir.
But then it turns out that wherever Blake and May are going, it's the right spot because Deathlock shows up. Poor Mike, man. Poor Mike. He got an upgrade in this episode. He's like, he's getting more Deathlocky by the minute. He's like, Mike Peterson is dead. And it's really sad. He's had the saddest arc on the show so far. And he takes down Blake. Blake is down. Blake's in critical condition. And this is how we learn that Thomas Nash is the main suspect. So then we have this giant showdown and confrontation. They find the guy Nash. And Tony, you said you had thoughts. So let's just dive into this big moment.
It was cool. I mean, I was like, Brad Dourif's the clairvoyant. That's a great get. But you know, the physical performance, obviously, he's quadriplegic, he's disabled, so it's not Brad Dourif, it's not Grey Worm, you know, let's say that. But it was cool to see him. The thing that I really liked was this voice that he did, because I do believe Brad Dourif recorded that, and it does sound like this sort of computerized way that you know Stephen Hawking would talk. However, I think what they did because I kept listening to it, was the way they mixed the sound. I think they just used snippets of different takes to create contrast in the enunciation of words. So it would be like this, and just depending on what the take was, it was a really cool, it was a cool method. And so in that sense, I feel like, okay, I do feel like I did get some good Brad Dourif in there. He's a really, you know, cool character actor. I'm sure he had a lot of fun making the voice what it is. But yeah, I liked that approach and that technique. I'm assuming that's the technique they used. I liked it very much.
It was not in the wiki when I learned about the history, so we'll just have to assume. And I guess we're not seeing him again because fucking Ward shot him. And on that note, we're gonna take a break because that's a good place to take a break. We'll be back. If you're drinking, go fill your drinks, do all that good stuff. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are talking season 1, episode 16, end of the beginning, with our producer Miera in the house. We're talking now. We thought we met the clairvoyant. Is it really the clairvoyant? We won't know because Ward shoots him. Ward getting his emotions. You know, we have this whole scene earlier where Trip is talking about losing his partner, and you know, like, what if Sky had died? And it just feels like all this bullshit. But he just Tony, I know you have thoughts.
Fucking Ward, man. It's just such a push-pull with him for me. The entire show of just being like, all right, Ward, good work on that one, man. Good work. And then I'm like, you imbecile. Because yeah, you got emotional. He was pushing the right buttons. He had your psychological profile. He just, and like the coldness with which he did it and his lack of remorse, there was a serious need for questioning that suspect. You know, whether it was the clairvoyant or not, that's a lead, that's a suspect. Also, he just fucking shot a guy, and it may not even be him. They didn't even confirm that it was him. They didn't. He might have just killed some guy who had no control over his body or mind. And I think it's a big strike against him. I'm angry at Ward.
Miera?
Yeah. This was it was shocking. I watched the episode a couple of times, and the first time I watched it, I was not quite prepared for him to do that. They just did a very good job of filming it, where I was like, whoa. And then it was this like feeling of, I felt betrayal because I believed better of Ward at that moment. And I wanted to believe that he was the person that, I don't know. I just wanted better.
Yeah,
and then there's the whole thing where they're talking to him in the interrogation room, and he's just like, I know I did what I did was wrong, and I accept the consequences. I'm like, go fuck yourself. You don't. It bugs the hell out of me.
I want to shout out Tess in the comments because we get very few Ward defenders in here, and it says, I think people are uncharitable with Ward. Coulson acts impulsive often, and people just think it's charming and fatherly. That's fair, but this was an extra step of Ward. But I do love seeing Ward defenders, because I do sometimes think people are extra mean to Ward, and we love Brett, even though he's a big old spoiler.
Yeah, big old spoiler.
So
yeah, just I can't. Think of, so I do a true crime podcast, and I think of there are many like serial killers and murderers who afterwards are like, no, I just did what I had to do. I don't know what you want me to say, and it's just Ward just giving off that vibe.
Yeah,
true. So Coulson realizes that the Clairvoyant is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. He puts his puzzle pieces together, and that's when the shit hits the fan. Everything is starting to come out. Fitz finds May's encrypted line, and which is a hilarious and adorable moment. But now, so this episode pretty much ends on this big cliffhanger with a showdown between May and Coulson. We've got now Coulson's yelling at Ward, why did you kill him? She's yelling at May, who do you answer to? And then we've got Victoria Hand saying, kill everybody on the bus. So it's a big major cliffhanger. Everyone's a suspect. Everyone might die next week. What do you think?
I think you heard my groan of frustration that as soon as it went to the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo. I was very upset that this episode, I mean, it's a beast of a cliffhanger. Oh boy. Well, I know May is telling the truth when I think what she was doing is separate from this, but it's still deception. And then as far as Hand goes, man, I mean, I knew she was kind of shady, but that's next level. Like, I'm very concerned about the bus and everybody on it.
You've watched next week, so you know what's coming.
So I know what's coming. Yeah.
So I will ask your
predictions.
But if you have thoughts, I'll hear them.
Oh yeah, this was, I think, something S.H.I.E.L.D. does really well, is these moments of like almost like info dumping, where a bunch of stuff gets revealed all at once. But especially in this, because we had the like kind of 3 different areas, you got the info about like May and the line, you got Hand demanding that everyone be murdered. Like, it just like tingled. It was like terrifying, but it was also like, oh man, what are we going to find out?
Yeah. That's where I'm at for another week.
And Tony, I'm curious. So, the only other movie that we've had so far is Thor: The Dark World, and it had a nice little sprinkle. They went to London to clean up the mess. Do you have any predictions on how next week might if Winter Soldier is going to affect this at all?
If Sitwell is the Clairvoyant, I'm going to be so fucking pissed. Like, I don't know if Sitwell's the Clairvoyant, but his absence and that punk, I don't know. They said it's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I mean, it very well could be, but like, if that little worm is the mastermind, the Clairvoyant, I'm going to be needing that guy to be like shot really soon. But I know he's not, so it's going to be hard for me.
Wow, we're so close to finding out, to getting your answers. Oh gosh. Before we get into some history, is there anything else about this episode that either of you want to talk about?
I have one thought regarding Fitzsimmons, where there's so much, um, like with this sort of budding potential romance with Trip and everything. I think that Fitz's jealousy of Sky and her potential romantic prospects is becoming very palpable, and it's
You mean
really.
Gemma?
I'm sorry, I keep
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah, Gemma. Yes, yes. It's becoming really palpable, like Fitz being jealous, and it, it's complicated because I still don't see them as a couple. I also don't see him as a being his love for her being unreciprocated. But it's clear that he doesn't want anyone to take her away from him in any capacity, and that's what it feels like. And I'm just getting little flashes of that, like, and interpreting it. But that's cool. I'm enjoying watching that.
Yeah, I agree. I really like watching Trip and Gemma flirt, and it is kind of like
Yes.
watching Fitz watch it, like the
Mhm.
way he's like looking like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The other thing that I thought was really cool is there's just one shot of Deathlock when they're underground trying to find him in the dark, and the what they call the seven dwarves, right? The little orbs, is that right? Um, they get a visual on him, and it's this sort of photo negative, like X-ray look to him,
Yes.
and
Oh yeah.
that's what he looks like in the comics. And I think that's
Yeah.
as close as we're going to get to seeing like the skeletal metallic Deathlock. So it was a nice little touch, I thought.
Poor Mike. Maria, any other thoughts?
No, I do agree with Tony. That was something I clocked, especially because I loved Sky being like, "Whoa, guys, they like did stuff to him." I thought it was such a
Yeah.
great line. But yeah, that was all I had.
Great. Yeah, I just can't wait for next week, and not just because our guest is Clark Gregg. Like
Our
I'm
guest is
literally
Clark Gregg next week.
and here's a Buffy reference for you. No, I don't have anything to say about that. All right, so let's talk about some history. This episode was filmed January 20th to January 30th, 2014. So, well, 10 days.
Crazy.
And I know. This is funny. The character Thomas Nash was named for the Elizabethan writer Thomas Nash, who wrote a story that is believed to have established the phrase "red herring." So
Terrific.
I think that's
Ward,
hilarious.
you just fucking killed a guy.
Ooh,
Oh, by the way, sorry. One more thing. I just noticed going back through my notes. I wrote, like, when Ward shot him, I wrote all caps, "Ward, the fuck." And then my very next note is, "Ward, you fuck." Like, I had to say it twice. Like, I had to make sure I got that thought
Two
down.
different ways.
Yeah. All right, go on.
The end of the episode was shot at the Hollywood Park racetrack. The script, it was originally going to be at an abandoned shopping mall, but then they found out about the racetrack that it was available, and they're like, let's just do it here. So that's, I guess,
Great.
interesting. Yeah. There wasn't a lot, because everything is like this arc is when they're like really ramping up, like Winter Soldier's about to come out. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
We're getting to this next Marvel movie. How is it going to affect the show, even if it will at all? So, which is kind of the how we spend the rest of the show. Tony, do you have anything else before you say your goodbyes?
No, I feel like I've said everything. Who's our guest next week?
Oh, Clark Gregg.
Oh, okay. The Star of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the show we talk about.
Yeah.
Cool. That's
Yeah,
exciting. Yeah. No, I've said everything.
Great. Do you want to say your thank yous?
Oh my gosh, yeah. That is normally how we do this. I'm
Yeah.
just sorry. I'm a little distracted by the fact that our guest is Clark Gregg next week. So thank you, Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials. She did our artwork. And thank you, Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. He did our really cool music. And thank you to our producer, Maria, who's also our guest and no longer disembodied. Hi, Maria. Thank you.
Hello, you're welcome. I will go back to being disembodied next week as Clark Gregg
That's
will be our
fine.
guest.
Yeah.
Don't forget, follow us on social media at LitoPod and Instagram and Twitter. Reminder that if you want to ask Clark questions, DM me on at LitoPod. Don't DM my personal account because I will not see it. And we'll try our best to get some questions in there. From there, check out our link tree. Go see where you can listen to us, like and subscribe, and obviously tell all your friends about next week. Because honestly, this is a huge deal for us because I feel like if we can get Gregg on this show, we can get anyone on the show because he is the star of the show. And so this is opening so many amazing doors for us, and we're really, really lucky and grateful that Clark was quick to say yes. So yeah, leave us those 5-star reviews, all that business. And again, reminder: join our Patreon live on Thursday because we're talking the Winter Soldier, 7:00, $1 a month. Hopefully we can see you there. And if you are watching for the first time along with Tony, now is the time to leave because spoilers are coming.
All right, we're leaving the room. Clark Gregg next week.
All right, there he goes.
Oh
my gosh. So I wanted to say, because Tony doesn't really know this, but one of the reasons I waited until this week to reach out to Clark was because I didn't want anyone involved with the show being on the show before episode 17. Because,
yeah, that's very fair.
We have 1 week left to keep the biggest secret of the entire series, and then I can breathe easy. The only other really big thing is Daisy, and if that got spoiled, it would suck, but it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, and I feel like that one he'll be able to figure out more.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot more in the show that'll point towards it before it actually happens.
Yeah, and there's also so the way that, if I'm remembering correctly, the way that next week's episode Turn ends is the whole episode you still think was good, and then it ends with him killing Hand, right? You would just
exactly. Yeah.
And so there is room for someone to see that episode and still think maybe word is good, maybe something's going on.
Yeah, maybe he's a triple.
But Clark's going to be on the show. It's going to, Tony's going to know. Tony's going to know next week. I'm not going to say anything after we watch the episode.
Yeah, when you watch it.
But on the podcast, even though there is a world where Tony could still be but maybe that ain't happening next week. And I feel like will Clark call her Daisy? It's very likely. Also, this man isn't us. He doesn't watch this show over and over again.
In a year. He also who knows the last time he revisited this show even.
Mm-hmm. He double checked with me to make sure it was the episode that he
the correct episode. Yeah.
So I feel like I just feel like it's gonna be interesting, and we'll see. But yeah, Clark probably doesn't remember what happens when. He does not have the encyclopedia the rest of us do. But that's okay, because if he spoils it, it's gonna be freaking funny. But I do want to kick Tony out a little early next week though, so that we can ask some full questions,
more deep.
Yeah. I'd love to say we're going to get Clark on once a season, all 7 years, but I can't promise that. Let's try to give him the best time possible so he wants to come back. But area that I was right before we watched the episode. I was we had just found out that Clark said he would do it, so I made our graphic because I was excited, and I showed it to Tony, and the episode title is Turn, and I forgot that in this episode Garrett says turn when talking about Ward to Sky, and I was like, oh, he's gonna pick up on this, but he definitely didn't. He is not suspecting this.
I was like, I also rewatched oh my god, not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's the show. Sorry, Captain America Winter Soldier. This weekend after this episode and then before the next episode, just to kind of remind myself what happens, but also prep for our show on Thursday. And it was the whole time I was watching the movie, I just kept on thinking about what's gonna happen later in this season because of this and how deep it goes. And so when the next episode opened and May called to check to be like, no, I was talking to director Fury, and they're like, he's dead. Like, good luck. Hail Hydra. I was like, oh my God, Tony's gonna lose it.
Yeah, we're in for it. Like I'm like, I wish I could like record him watching the show, but I don't want him to like
That was
see me
well,
do
no.
it, you know?
Evan wanted my partner. Evan suggested that you record Tony watching the part in Winter Soldier where it's revealed that like Shield is just Hydra essentially, to see if he like gets it.
I mean, he obviously, like, I know he knows, like, he's seen
Yeah.
that movie many times, but he like,
He
I just
hasn't.
don't think it's occurred to him like how much it's gonna affect the show.
Exactly. It's like, oh, the show called Agents of Shield, but also the title doesn't change because that would be way more complicated.
Yeah, I know. I've heard the cast of Agents of Shield talk before about how they watched a screening of Winter Soldier together, and they all came out like, what?
Do we have jobs?
Yeah. And so obviously we'll talk to Clark about that next week. But yes, another thing that was really funny that happened when Tony and I were watching. So Tony and I are big Twin Peaks fans, and we've been rewatching it.
Nice.
And there was a moment during the show where we were watching this episode, and he paused it because he like remembered something about Twin Peaks that he wanted to talk about. He goes, "Oh my God, remember when Coop did that really funny thing?" And I was like, it's so like, my friends Jackie and Sari are like, isn't it so hard to live with him and not talk about it? And I was like, the only thing that's hard is not talking about actors. And he's pausing Agents of Shield to praise Kyle MacLachlan, and I'm like,
and you're like, I know.
so long to wait until I mean, it's still this year. We're gonna get Kyle this year, but it's still a long way.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be so excited, especially because we're watching Twin Peaks right now. If listeners, if you haven't watched Twin Peaks, it's one of the greatest things that's ever been created.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And then basically, like, we kind of talked about it, the whole Ward killing Nash thing. I actually really like the way that the show sets it up to make it seem like he's doing it for Skye when we know that that's not really the case. And I like that like Coulson comes in accusing him, because it is kind of a red herring, if you will.
It is, and I think they do a really good job of keeping the suspense of finding out about Ward until the very end. And I think it's also, I'm just excited. I'm just excited to keep watching.
I'm gonna be like, as much as like I've talked to Clark many times, I've interviewed him, and he's just he could not be a warmer, nicer person. But I'm still gonna be anxious about this all week, because I'm like, what if my internet cuts out? What if this happens? What if something else goes wrong? What, like, you know, whatever. So like, I'm just like, I just want it to be next week, because this whole week I'm gonna be so like,
just thinking of every single possible thing. Yeah.
Maria, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, I am good today. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For, you know, what's the word? Being here every week. Thanks for being here every week, and thank you for joining us today in our special guest capacity. We appreciate you doing that. I hope that everyone enjoyed seeing what you look like. And if they didn't know, it means they didn't watch the Patreon we did, where we talked about.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Maria did do one of our Patreons.
I wasn't there, yeah.
Yes. So thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's listening. I know that I kept typing this one up, and I hope that my announcement lived up to expectations. I can't imagine what a bigger announcement would have been, to be honest, though. Like, I think like that's kind of as big as it can get. But thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back live for the biggest episode of the season, literally in the show and in our show.
Yeah.
Turn, Sunday, April 7th, 5 p.m. Pacific live, and we'll be dropping the episode Monday, April 8th. We're on all major podcast platforms. If you want to look at our faces and Maria's face, you can watch us on YouTube, but you can also listen in all those other glorious ways. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Clark Gregg!